There's a version of you that nobody can mess with. A version of you that doesn't flinch when someone comes at you sideways. A version of you that doesn't lose sleep over what somebody said at the office, what some stranger posted online, or what an ex-friend whispered behind your back. A version of you that moves through the world with such quiet confidence that people feel it before you even open your mouth. That version of you isn't some fantasy. It's not reserved for celebrities, billionaires, or people who had some perfect upbringing. It's available to you right now. But to get there, you've got to be willing to unlearn almost everything society taught you about how to respond to people. Because here's the hard truth. Most of what you were taught about strength is completely backwards. You were taught that strength means speaking up, defending yourself, fighting back, proving your point, making sure people know they can't walk over you. And because of that, you've spent years, maybe decades, wasting your most valuable resources on people and situations that were never worth it. Every time you fired back at someone who wasn't worth your time, you gave them something they didn't deserve, your energy. Every time you stayed up at night mentally rehearsing arguments, you handed your peace of mind over to someone who probably forgot what they said to you the very next morning. Every time you bent over backwards explaining yourself to people who never planned on understanding you anyway, you surrendered a piece of your power. That ends today. What I'm going to walk you through are 7 psychological laws, principles that Machiavelli studied, refined, and applied over 500 years ago, and that the most strategically powerful minds throughout history have understood ever since. That will completely change how you operate, not by turning you into a cold, emotionless robot, not by making you distant or difficult, but by making you genuinely untouchable, by putting you in the driver's seat of every interaction, every relationship, and every situation in your life. Let's get into it. Law 1. Your attention is the most valuable thing you own. Most people think their most valuable asset is their time, but time without attention is worthless. You can have all the hours in the world, but if your focus is scattered across drama, distractions, you'll end up broke in the ways that matter most. Here's what nobody ever tells you about attention. Wherever it goes, power follows. Think about that for a second. Every single moment you give someone your attention, your focus, your mental energy, your emotional bandwidth, you are making an investment. And like any investment, the only question that matters is this: what's the return? When you respond to someone who disrespected you, what's the return? When you engage with someone who's been stirring up drama, what's the return? When you spend 3 hours of your evening emotionally chewing on something some coworker said at lunch, what's the return? The answer is nothing. Less than nothing, actually, because you've paid a cost with zero gain. Psychologically powerful people understand this at a cellular level. They treat their attention the way a serious investor treats capital. They don't throw it at every opportunity that comes knocking. They don't spread it thin across things that will never produce results. They are ruthlessly selective. And because of that selectivity, their attention actually means something. When they focus on you, you feel it. When they give you their time, it carries weight. And that weight? That's influence. That's magnetism. Here's the practical shift you need to make starting today. Before you give anything, your response, your time, your emotional energy, ask one question. Does this deserve it? Not should I be polite? Not will they think I'm rude if I don't respond? Just, does this deserve my attention? If the answer is no, you move on. No guilt, no second guessing, no explanation. The people who've built real power in their lives aren't the ones who responded to everything. They're the ones who responded to the right things. They created an invisible filter, and only what passed through that filter got access to them. You need that filter. Build it, honor it, and watch how quickly your energy levels, your focus, and your results begin to transform. Law 2. Silence is not surrender. It's domination. Let's talk about silence, because most people in this culture have a deeply distorted relationship with it. We live in a world that rewards noise. The loudest voice gets the most attention. The person who always has a comeback is considered quick-witted. The person who never backs down from a verbal confrontation is seen as strong. And because of that, most people have learned to associate silence with weakness, with backing down, with losing. But I need you to flip that script, because psychologically, nothing could be further from the truth. When someone attacks you and you fire back, what have you actually accomplished? You've validated them. You've confirmed that their words carried enough weight to pull you into the fight. You've entered their arena, played by their rules, and spent your energy on their terms. Even if you win the argument, you've lost something. You've shown them exactly how to get to you. But when someone attacks you and you say nothing, everything shifts. Silence, in the right moment, is the most destabilizing response you can give, because the human brain is wired to expect reactions. When someone throws a verbal punch and hits air, it creates a kind of psychological vertigo. They don't know what to do with it. They expected resistance, and they got nothing. And that nothing starts to work on them in ways that words never could. They start questioning themselves. Did you see what they said? Did it even bother you? Do you think so little of them that they're not even worth a response? The uncertainty eats at them. The not knowing is genuinely torturous for people who were trying to provoke a reaction. Meanwhile, you've moved on with your life. This is what real psychological strength looks like. Not the loudest comeback, not the most devastating insult, just the calm, quiet signal that says, you don't register. You are not a threat worth acknowledging. You're not even an inconvenience. Machiavelli saw this play out in the courts and councils of Renaissance Italy. The leaders who survived the longest weren't the ones who argued the loudest. They were the ones who knew when saying nothing was the most powerful statement they could make. There's another dimension to this. Every word you speak is information. Every time you explain yourself, you reveal what you care about. Every time you defend yourself, you show people where your soft spots are. And anyone who wants to manipulate you will file that information away and use it against you the next chance they get. Silence gives them nothing. No data, no emotional tells, no map of your vulnerabilities. You become, in a very real sense, unreadable. And unreadable people are impossible to control. Now, this doesn't mean you never speak. There are absolutely moments that call for your voice, your passion, your presence. But those moments should be chosen, not reactive, strategic, not impulsive. When you do speak, it carries weight precisely because you don't speak carelessly. The goal isn't to be permanently closed off. The goal is to make sure that every time you open your mouth, it means something. Choose your silence. Choose your words. And understand that in many situations, the most powerful thing you'll ever say is nothing at all. Law 3. Scarcity is the engine of value. There's a reason the things we want most in life are things we can't always have. It's not a coincidence. It's psychology. Human beings are hardwired to value what's rare and discount what's abundant. It's baked into our biology. Scarcity signals value. Abundance signals disposability. Most people apply this principle when they think about products, money, or status. But they completely miss the fact that it applies to them personally, to their time, to their presence, to their availability. Think about someone in your life, maybe from a previous relationship, maybe a friendship, who was always there, always available, always dropped everything when you called, always responsive, always accommodating, always present. How did you feel about them after a while? If you're being honest, probably something between comfort and boredom, maybe even a little suffocated. And here's the uncomfortable truth. You probably didn't value their presence the way you should have, precisely because it was always there. There was no cost to accessing it. And we don't value what costs us nothing. Now flip it. Think about someone who was selective, who you weren't quite sure you'd hear from, whose attention felt like it had to be earned, who showed up fully when they showed up, but wasn't just perpetually available. How did you feel about that person? You thought about them. You wondered what they were doing. You valued the moments you did connect because those moments felt earned and real. That's not manipulation. That's just psychology. And the most strategically aware people in the world use it intentionally. In their professional lives, their social lives, their romantic lives, everywhere. The principle is simple. Be present, but be selective. Show up fully when you show up, but don't be everywhere, for everyone, at all times. Stop being the person who responds to every text in 30 seconds. Stop being the one who rearranges their whole schedule every time someone needs something. Stop making yourself so constantly available that people start to take your presence for granted. Because they will. People always take for granted what feels permanent and unlimited. Instead, let your availability reflect your priorities. Be fully engaged when you're engaged, but pull back when something or someone isn't deserving of your full presence. This isn't about being flaky or unreliable. It's about being intentional. And when people start to feel that intentionality, when they realize that your presence is given, not guaranteed, your value in their lives goes up. They start working to keep you in the picture, instead of assuming you'll always be there. You don't have to disappear to be valued. You just have to make sure that being with you feels like something worth showing up for. Law 4. The mind-bending power of the non-reaction. Here's something that the most strategically minded people figured out a long time ago, and it's something that the rest of the world still doesn't fully grasp. Your non-reaction is more powerful than any reaction you could ever have. When someone tries to provoke you, whether it's a direct insult, a passive-aggressive comment, a social media jab, a backhanded compliment, they are executing a strategy. Whether they know it or not, what they're really doing is trying to take the wheel from you. They want to steer your emotional state. They want to make you angry, defensive, embarrassed, or flustered. And the moment you react the way they intended, they've succeeded. You've handed them control. But when you don't react, when you look right through them, when you continue your day completely undisturbed, when you give them absolutely zero acknowledgement that their attempt even landed, something fascinating happens in their mind. The human brain is built around feedback loops. We act and we expect a result. When someone provokes you and you react, the loop closes. They know their action had impact. They learn what works. They file it away. But when you don't react, the loop stays open. There's no closure. Their brain keeps running the same sequence over and over, searching for a resolution that never comes. That open loop is psychologically consuming. It creates a kind of low-grade obsession. They replay the moment. They wonder why it didn't land. They question themselves. And all of that mental energy they're burning is energy they're spending on you, while you're spending zero mental energy on them. Let that sink in. They're fighting a battle that you're not even participating in, and they're losing. This is true at every scale. The coworker who makes a snide comment and watches you laugh and move on. The person online who leaves a nasty comment and gets nothing back. Not a response, not even a like, just silence. The ex who tries to get under your skin through mutual friends and finds that their attempts bounce right off you. Non-reaction isn't passivity. It's a statement. It says, "You have no grip on me. You don't affect my emotional state. You are not in my world the way you want to be." And that statement hits harder than any clapback ever could. Practice this deliberately. The next time you feel the urge to respond to something unworthy, pause, breathe, let the moment pass, and notice how it feels to watch someone's attempt to destabilize you just float by harmlessly. That feeling, that's power. Real, quiet, sustainable power. Law 5. Know who to cut and do it cleanly. Not everyone in your life deserves to be there. That might sound harsh, but it's one of the most compassionate things you can accept. Because when you allow the wrong people to occupy space in your life, you don't just drain your own resources, you also deprive the right people of your best self. There are 3 categories of people that you need to examine honestly and cut cleanly if necessary. The first category is your adversaries, not people who disagree with you. Healthy disagreement is valuable. I mean the people who are actively working against you, The ones who smile to your face and undermine you behind your back. The ones who celebrate your stumbles and minimize your wins. The ones who would genuinely prefer to see you fail. The temptation when you identify these people is to expose them, confront them, or publicly call them out. You want justice. You want people to know the truth. But here's the strategic reality. Engaging with them gives them a platform. It makes them relevant. It pulls you down to a level where fighting the battle takes all your energy, leaving nothing for actually winning. The move is to erase them, not dramatically, not publicly, just quietly and completely. Stop giving them your attention. Stop referencing them. Stop letting their existence shape your decisions. And then keep building. Keep winning. Keep rising. Because your success is a far more devastating response than anything you could say to them directly. The second category is the chronic critics. These are people who never create anything, never build anything, never put their own work on the line. They just sit on the sidelines and tear down everyone who does. These people are not your problem. They are not your responsibility. You owe them nothing, not a response, not a defense, not even a moment of consideration. The only thing critics need is an audience. The moment you stop providing one, they become irrelevant. And here's the beautiful irony. The more you build, the more they'll criticize. And the more that criticism will reveal how threatened they are by your progress. Your success doesn't argue with criticism. Your success makes criticism irrelevant. The third category is the most insidious. The energy drains. These are the people who look like friends, act like allies, but slowly hollow you out from the inside. They always have a crisis. There's always some emergency that requires your emotional labor. Every conversation leaves you feeling exhausted, and whenever you try to establish a boundary, somehow you end up feeling guilty about it. Here's the thing about energy drains. They don't improve. The crises don't end. The problems don't get resolved. Because what they're actually addicted to isn't solutions. It's attention. Your attention. And you've been providing it because you're a good person. Because you care. Because you don't want to abandon someone who's struggling. But pouring your energy into a bottomless pit doesn't help them. And it absolutely destroys you. Protecting your energy is not selfish. It is survival. You cannot show up fully for the people who actually deserve you if you've been drained dry by the ones who don't. Cut cleanly, not with cruelty, not with a big dramatic announcement. Just quietly, consistently, permanently redirect your energy toward people who add to your life rather than subtract from it. Law 6. Build a mind that nothing can penetrate. The reason people can get under your skin, control your emotions, and pull you off your game isn't because they're powerful. It's because you haven't built the internal architecture that makes you genuinely untouchable. That architecture has a name. It's emotional sovereignty. Emotional sovereignty doesn't mean you stop feeling things. It doesn't mean you become cold or detached from life. What it means is that you are the one who decides what affects you, when, and how much. External events happen, but they don't automatically run your internal world. You are the governor of your own emotional state, not the people around you, not the news cycle, not your critics, and not your circumstances. Most people are the opposite of this. They are what psychologists sometimes call emotionally reactive. Someone says something mildly critical, and their whole mood collapses. Someone ignores them, and they spiral into insecurity. Someone challenges their decision, and they either explode or shut down. Their internal state is almost entirely determined by external inputs, which means anyone who knows how to manipulate those inputs has full control over them. The first step toward emotional sovereignty is radical self-awareness. You need to identify your specific emotional triggers, the precise situations, words, or behaviors that reliably knock you off balance. What makes you defensive? What makes you need to explain yourself? What makes you angry enough to do something you'll regret? What makes you seek approval from people who don't deserve to give it? Those triggers are the cracks in your armor, and whether people are doing it consciously or not, they will find those cracks and press on them. The angry person is predictable. The insecure person is manipulable. The person who needs to be right is controllable. Know your cracks. The second step is deliberate desensitization. This means repeatedly exposing yourself, mentally, emotionally, experientially, to the things that used to trigger you until they stop triggering you. Not by avoiding them, but by facing them with increasing calm. Someone questions your competence, and instead of firing up, you get curious. Someone tries to embarrass you, and instead of shrinking, you stay grounded. Someone tries to make you feel small, and instead of absorbing it, you just let it slide right off. This takes time. It takes practice. But here's what happens on the other side of that practice. You become genuinely unmanipulable. People will try their old tactics and find they don't work anymore. And when someone realizes that their tools are useless on you, they either develop respect or they leave you alone. Both are excellent outcomes. Emotional sovereignty is the foundation that everything else in this conversation is built on. You can learn every tactical principle in the world, but if your emotional state is still being hijacked by external events, none of it will hold. Build the foundation first, build it strong, and watch how different the world looks when you're no longer a passenger in your own life. Law 7. The art of winning without moving. Here's the most sophisticated principle of all, and in some ways the hardest to internalize because it runs completely counter to everything our hustle-obsessed culture teaches us. Sometimes the most powerful move is no move at all. We've been conditioned to believe that power is action, that winning means fighting, that if you're not constantly producing, performing, defending, and proving, you're falling behind. And so we exhaust ourselves. We fight every battle. We respond to every provocation. We engage every critic. We treat every challenge as an emergency, requiring an immediate response. And all of that frantic activity? Most of it is wasted energy. Most of those battles weren't worth fighting. Most of those responses weren't necessary. And the cost of all that reactive effort is the depletion of the energy you actually need for the things that matter. Strategic inaction is the discipline of recognizing which situations will resolve themselves if you simply stay out of the way, and which ones actually require your intervention. Machiavelli called this one of the highest forms of intelligence in a leader, knowing when not to act. And developing that discernment is one of the most valuable skills you can build. Let me give you a concrete example. Someone is spreading rumors about you. The reactive move is to go into damage control. Reach out to everyone who might have heard. Explain yourself. Defend your reputation. Try to get out ahead of the story. And in doing all of that, you accomplish several things. You confirm that the rumors are getting to you. You spend enormous energy on a narrative you don't actually control. And you make the situation into a bigger deal than it probably needs to be. The strategic move? Do nothing. Keep showing up with integrity. Keep producing results. Keep being exactly who you actually are. And trust that, in time, what's real will speak louder than what's fabricated. The people who know you will know. And the people who believe rumors over evidence weren't in your corner to begin with. Here's another scenario. Someone is clearly trying to compete with you. They're watching your moves, mimicking your approach, positioning themselves as your rival. The reactive move is to engage the competition, to change your strategy, to stay ahead of them, to acknowledge the rivalry, to make it a race. The strategic move? Ignore them completely. Not with hostility, just with total indifference. Stay focused on your own path, your own vision, your own standard of excellence. Because the moment you start racing someone, you've handed them the power to dictate your pace and direction. And if you're not racing anyone, there's no race to lose. Strategic inaction isn't laziness. It's not avoidance. It's the discipline of refusing to burn your resources on battles that don't serve you, so that when you do move, you move with everything you have toward something that genuinely matters. The people who master this principle develop a kind of gravitational pull that's difficult to explain but impossible to ignore. Because they're not burning energy trying to convince you of their value. They're just living it. They're not chasing anyone, so people chase them. They're not proving anything to anyone, so their presence feels genuinely powerful rather than performative. Your peace becomes powerful. Your stillness becomes magnetic. Your absence from petty battles becomes a signal that you're playing a different game entirely, one that most people haven't even found the entrance to. That's where you're headed. 7 laws, all of them interconnected, all of them pointing toward the same destination. Guard your attention like it's the most precious resource you own, because it is. Master silence, not as avoidance, but as a strategic tool that speaks louder than words. Make your presence something that has to be earned, not something that's just always available for the taking. Let your non-reactions become your most powerful statement in the moments that try to pull you off center. Be ruthless, lovingly, cleanly ruthless, about who gets space in your life and who doesn't. Build an emotional architecture so solid that external chaos can't find a foothold inside you. And learn to win not just through action, but through the strategic, deliberate choice of inaction. None of this happens overnight. Real transformation never does, but you don't need overnight. You need consistent, deliberate application, one interaction, one choice, one moment at a time. The next time someone tries to bait you into reacting, don't. The next time someone demands an explanation you don't owe them, let the demand hang in the air and walk away. The next time you feel the pull to prove yourself to someone who never believed in you anyway, redirect that energy towards someone or something that deserves it. The version of you that's genuinely untouchable isn't somewhere out there in the future. It's being built right now, in every choice you make about where your energy goes and who gets access to you. Start protecting it like it matters, because it does. You're building something. Don't let people who aren't building anything talk you off your path. Now go be untouchable.